International rugby, folks, this weekend. The neighbour next door has stopped using his saw for a second. But anyway, I've just closed all the bloody doors because he keeps starting up every time that I start recording. Scotland are taking on Fiji. These two sides do not meet all that often, but we are going to go through the squads, some predictions, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how this game may or may not pan out. I should say, if you want to watch this or any of the other autumn games, Autumn Nation Series games, and you're in the US of A, check out Flow Rugby, link down in the description. They've got them all, live or on demand. Happy days. Scotland 9th in the world after dropping that recent game to Australia. And Fiji 12th in the world after dropping that Pacific Nations Cup game to Samoa a wee while ago now. But a little bit disappointing in that campaign, I think you would have to say. So kind of a chance for both sides to bounce back. Obviously Scotland, I guess, with a week's extra prep. That being said, they have picked a lot of guys who weren't available last week, so those guys will kind of be at a similar preparation stage to some of the Fijian guys in terms of joining their squad kind of late. It's only one change in the front row for the Scots. It's still Schoeman and Fagerson as your props, but George Turner gets a start rather than being on the bench this week. Richie Gray is into the 23 in the second row. Sam Skinner, unfortunately, I think has picked up an injury. I'm not sure if he's going to be back at all during the autumn games. Gilchrist is still there. The back row is unchanged, Ritchie, Watson and Fagerson. So they get another chance to kind of run out against what's a pretty athletic looking Fijian back row, but we'll get to them in a tick. Ali Price and Adam Hastings are your 19 combo. So Adam Hastings takes the spot of Blair Kinghorn. Blair Kinghorn's been talked up in several, I guess, areas, journos, and the coach saying he had a pretty good one, but ultimately 5 points missed off the boot, maybe the difference in that game against the Aussies. And Adam Hastings, playing for Gloucester, has been pretty reliable. Just the other week he kicked like a 55-metre drop goal. So we'll see what he can do. Remember, Finn Russell's not even in the Scotland squad at all. So I really think this is a good chance for Adam Hastings to put his hand up. So pleased for him, because as I said, for Gloucester, he's been cracking along really nicely. It's also an all-new midfield with Cameron Redpath and Chris Harris coming into the 23-2. Remember, Harris plays with Hastings at Gloucester. Redpath has had such an injury-ravaged, I want to say, like 18 months. But he's only got like 2 Scotland caps at this point, but he got his debut, what was it, 2020 Six Nations? I don't know, it's a long time ago. But he looks at the business when he's fit and playing. He looks like a very talented young man, good distributor especially, but quite capable of taking the ball to the line. So good on him for kind of staying in Gregor Townsend's plans. The wingers are the same with the big man, little man, Duhan and Darcy. And then Stuart Hogg comes into the 23 as fullback. Remember, he wouldn't have been available last week because his duties with Exeter would have made him unavailable. The replacements, Ashman, Sutherland and Murphy Walker. Murphy Walker will be on his debut, so it's an all-new front row set of reserves. Jonny Gray is also there. I'm not used to seeing him on the bench for Scotland, to be honest, but Gregor Townsend did talk up how well he thought Richie Gray had been playing prior to the Australia game. So yeah, it's Jonny on the bench, which I said is unusual, but I'm sure he'll do a job when he comes on. Jack Dempsey will be in line for his second cap. Ben White's also into the 23 after not being available last week. Blair Kinghorn drops to the bench, and Sione Tuipulotu with Redpath there also drops to the bench. So is it wholesale changes when you change 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 starting guys from outside the 23 and then promote one of the guys from the bench? It's a fair chunk of the squad, isn't it? For the Fijians, it's a relatively different team than we saw last play in the Pacific Nations Cup. I mean, Mawi, Matavesi and Saulo, that's a very familiar front row. Saulo was on the bench, I think, for that last game against Samoa, but otherwise it's pretty stable. Mayana Vanua is still there in the second row. He's been a bit of a stalwart as well, but there is a debutant in the second row alongside him in Rotui Solia. I think he played about 5 games for the Fijian Drua in the Super Rugby campaign this year. So relatively inexperienced, but obviously Vern Cotter sees something in him. Tuisui moves to the 6th jersey from 8 to make way for Bill Mata, who's there in the 8 jersey. Scotland fans will certainly know all about him. And then Levani Botia is back from the midfield into the loose forwards at number 7. I know that guy's played 6, 7 in the past, but not for a wee while. He's been largely at 12, right, at La Rochelle. But yeah, that's going to be a very athletic looking number 7 for Fiji. 9-10 combo is also different. It's a bit of a surprise. I mean, Lamani's not a surprise at 9. That's very much to be expected. But Vili Moni Botitu at 10 is, I don't think he's ever played a program at 10 in his life. Not that I'm aware of. I looked up his playing records, and I think he's pretty much always a 12 or a 13, isn't he? Mostly a 12. So for him to step in at 10 is a big call. For Fiji, it's largely been Vola Vola in recent years, and Teti Tella was looking the business in the Pacific Nations Cup in recent times, although he was even a bit up and down. I do think Tella had issues with his passport from what I read. So he's late to join the camp. He lost his passport, so that probably didn't do him any favours in terms of selection if he was joining the squad late. Ravovo and Nathalevu is a very, very tidy looking midfield. Chris Harris and Cam Redpath will be under the pump, but Chris Harris is one of the best defensive midfielders out there, so he's going to put that reputation to the test. Habosi on the left wing. If you saw Super Rugby this year, you'll know all about him. The guy is electric. Tuisuva moves from fullback to the right wing, and then Murimurivalu is there in the 15 jersey. So a Fijian side with an electric back 3 is kind of hardly surprising. You got a couple of debutants on the bench. Natave the prop and Mangala the 23. I think those guys have got 7s backgrounds. Teti Tella, like I mentioned, is on the bench. Rutuni Yarawa's on the bench. Kamika Mika is on the bench. Kamika Mitha. But yeah, it's a pretty tidy looking Fijian squad. You may be asking, where's Radradra? I think Bristol was saying he's out for at least the next 3 weeks, so he's pretty much going to miss Fiji's games, unfortunately. But looking at Ravovo and Nathalevu, you can't complain too much, man. Recent history between the sides. Not that recent. The most recent game being this one, 54-17 at Murrayfield in 2018. Tommy Seymour getting a hat-trick in that game. Pretty one-sided. Fiji does have 1 win in their last 5, but that's 2017. Down in Fiji, 27-22. But then the previous games, 2012, 2009, 2003, we're getting to quite some time ago, if that's correct. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe those are the last 5 games. Scotland winning 4 of them. But if you're looking back to the 2003 Rugby World Cup, probably not all that relevant. For what it's worth, the average score across the last 5 games is 32-20. So like a 12-point margin for the Scottish guys. In terms of predictions, the bookies didn't have any odds listed for this one, but the Rugby Forecast algorithm says Scotland by 10 points. Nick Berry's the ref, the Aussie. It's 2 a.m. kickoff for me here in NZ, although I think it's 1 o'clock local time. So, yeah, pretty rough. I think it's pretty early in the morning for you guys in Fiji as well. But, yeah, I'll probably watch this one delayed, if I'm honest, because, yeah, 2 a.m. is just a touch too early. But, yeah, it should be a pretty good game. Like I said, both lineups are looking pretty interesting. You guys let us know your thoughts, and, yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.